Time for the UNX News. Extraterrestrials, time anomalies, dimensions, remote viewing, UFOs, UAPs, and USOs, ghostly encounters, abductions, Bigfoot, and more. Your end of the week news source for everything unexplained. Here is your host for the UNX News Podcast, Margie K.
Hello and welcome to UNX News. I'm your host, Margie K, and we are here every Friday at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And we are having some sound issues with my guest. My guest tonight is Kevin Day, and we are going to be talking about his Navy. When he was in the Navy, he happened to be in the Nimitz Group, and he's a first-hand witness to a UFO sighting there, the Tic Tac sighting. As soon as we get his sound done, we're going to do one more test here live. Kevin, can you? Okay, I can hear you. Your connection is not that great. If you could connect directly to your router, and if there are any other devices being used, turn them off. That will help. Okay. And while Kevin is checking on that, I do want to mention just a few things that are coming up, and also a couple of books that we just published. NX Media just published recently. Incident in Vincennes. This is getting a lot of traction, a lot of interest. You may have seen the film by James Fox called Moment of Contact. It is about this case. And Vittorio Paccassini is the lead investigator on this case, and he has written this book along with Fernanda Perez, and it is just fantastic. It's available at Amazon if you're interested in that. And then also, of course, my latest book, along with my assistant, Violet Wisdom, and she's also our blog writer, by the way. And that is called How to Research a Haunted House for Homeowners, Renters, Investors, and Paranormal Investigators. Of course, this is a one of a kind. There's nothing else out there like it. Believe me, if you're a paranormal investigator or if you're living in a haunted house, that might be something for you to check out. And then finally, I'm going to be mentioning conferences once in a while on my shows, at least one every show that I do, because we've got some fantastic conferences coming up, and the UNX Network is sponsoring a lot of these conferences. And the first one is Haunted America Conference. It's at ghostconference.net, being held June 26th to 28th, 2025 in Alton, Illinois. And I will be there. The UNX Network will have a table there. Please stop by and see us if you go to this conference. It is the original Haunted America Conference, but they're the original. Before anybody else was doing these conferences, they are it. And so do check that one out if you will. And now my guest this evening, Kevin Day, joined the Navy in 1986 and was assigned to the USS Vincennes for his first deployment in 1988, right in the middle of the Iran-Iraq War. Kevin served on 6 at-sea commands: Vincennes, Chosin, Princeton, and more, along with staff tours. He was awarded Combat Action Ribbon, Navy Commendation, Achievement, and Meritorious Service Medals, even TOPGUN AICS along the way. His final underway, while still wearing a uniform, was in 2004 on the USS Princeton, along with the Nimitz Strike Group, which also turned out to be the Tic Tac UFO encounter. Welcome to the program, Kevin.
Hi, can you hear me? I hope.
I certainly can. Thank you so much for joining us. You might want to get a little closer to your mic.
Hey, you know what? I have to apologize. We had a Wi-Fi issue because I went to the back room where it'd be a lot quieter. and apparently
Oh,
my 5G couldn't handle it. So slow me.
okay.
I
Well,
finally ding. Okay.
I am so glad we got that straightened out
Well, the
because
studio
we've
doesn't look as nice. That's the one
oh,
bad thing. But my golf
it's
clubs are in the
perfect.
back. So
Well, now we know what your hobby is, Kevin.
yeah.
So let's uh let's go back to the Navy. What prompted you to join the Navy?
Well, in high school, I was kind of one of those kids. I wasn't a jock per se, and I didn't bury my head in books all day. And I was always up in the mountains and stuff. Like skiing and rock climbing and camping and that kind of stuff on the local search and rescue. And so when
Mm-hmm.
it came time to graduate, I said, "What the heck? I'll throw my hat in. I'll try to get a exchange student scholarship." So I ended up going to Australia, and I have to tell you that whet my appetite. Itchy feet after that. So spent a couple years messing around, traveled all over the place. Ski bum in Colorado, with Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Lived there for a while, and finally decided to get serious and join the Navy. So that's kind of how I got into the Navy. And then I was a little bit older by then, probably a lot wiser. So I buckled down, did really good in my radar school. I graduated number one out of
Mm.
90 people. Picked orders, picked the Vincennes in San Diego, and went on my first deployment in
Okay.
1987, 88.
Now, before, of course, we know what we're going to be talking about tonight, but before you joined the Navy, did you have any UFO sightings?
I did have one in Jackson
Okay.
Hole, Wyoming. My brother-in-law and I we were coming down from rainbow trout fishing off the upper lake. All of a sudden, he slams a brake on the Jeep, and I look over where he's looking through the binoculars, and there was a silver disc hovering atop of a knoll, and we both look at each other like, no one's gonna believe us anyway. Let's go home. So we just went home and forgot about it.
Oh my
Isn't
gosh.
that what most people do? I mean, who
Yeah,
the hell's
well, a
gonna
lot
believe you?
do. A lot do. A
Especially back
very,
then,
very,
right, Margie?
yeah,
Especially
a
you
small
remember how it
percentage
was.
a very small percentage of people actually report seeing a UFO.
Yep.
Especially back then, it was not so accepted. But now, when the government's talking about it, and there are all these whistleblowers coming forward, it's a different. It's not as bad of a stigma as it used to be.
Not at all. You can
So
hear people talking about it in the grocery store now. No one even
yeah.
looks at them twice.
So this UFO that you saw, this silver disc, do you know about how big that was? Do you remember?
If I had to guess, and this would be a guess because it was on top of a knoll, and the knoll was probably at least 5, 6 miles from where we were. So I would have to guess 50 yards. I mean, it was large. It wasn't a
Wow.
tiny thing. It was quite large. Yeah.
Yeah. Was there any
Yeah.
sound?
No, we were too far to hear any sound if there was.
Okay. Okay.
No
So then you
doors, no
join.
windows that I can recall. Of course, you have to remember this was back. This is ancient memory for me. So, and I had forgotten all
Right.
about it. In fact, since you brought it
Oh,
up, the only time all those years on behind a radar, I had 18 and a half years at sea, and a lot of it was behind a spy radar, a 3D radar system. And I always had a real curious interest in it. And I used to listen to Coast AM with Art Bell, so I always had an open mind about it. But I wasn't a UFO guy, if that makes any sense.
right.
Now, I was pretty
Yeah.
straight stick radar operator, because it
Hmm.
was pretty. Um, you have to be pretty sober to do that type of work, right?
Sure.
Um, so, but I did have an open mind. My first deployment, and the reason why I'm going back to the Vincennes here, because this is important. My first deployment was during the Iran-Iraq War, um, 1988. We were in the Gulf, and they're getting ready to shut down the oil shipping. it was getting that bad. So we went screaming over there, and we came under fire. The ship did. Iranian bog hammers, and they had a right to defend their international line. I have to tell you, we got too close. The helicopter did, and the helicopter took shots. We went to general quarters. They came at us. We took rounds. We ended up having to sink 9 of them. They counted 27. They were on us. It was a day at sea no sailor could ever forget. Anyway, and if I get emotional, you'll understand why. An airplane launched out of Iran, and it was mistaken for an F-14. And a year previous, on the Stark, 37 sailors died from an F-14. So it was right in the middle of this. This thing launched, right? It was mistaken. It turned out to be a commercial airliner. And it was Iranian Flight 655. And we shot it down.
Oh,
I was standing right behind Captain Rogers. Uninvolved in my first deployment, of course. I was doing navigation, but I witnessed the whole damn thing. You know, I was standing right behind him when he stood up, turned the key. Devastated me. One of my best damn friends was Iranian. I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. And then I got mad, you know. I was like, this ain't going to happen again. No. I'm going to stay in. I'm going to make damn sure. And that's what I did. And fast forward all those years, you know, all that time became the best of the best. You know, I could show you my evaluations, you know. I went through Top Gun school, the whole 9 yards, became a really good trainer. My very last time underway on a ship in a uniform was during Tic Tac. Okay, now think about this.
Yeah.
I do the intercept. I see these things coming from space, and no one would frickin' believe me. I was worried about safety of flight. Just like back in '88. It pissed me off. What do you mean you don't believe it?
You mean this is while that's going on? It live?
Right after. I mean, if you were in the strike group, of course you saw it, right? But when we got back to shore and we tried to describe what happened, everyone laughed at us. Cartoons were made. We tried to describe it. I didn't have any other word other than UFO at the time. I didn't know what to call it. It was unidentified, right? And so I got pissed off. I ended up retiring as soon as I was eligible. Got work in the Department of Defense through a contractor. Again, I tried to raise my hand about safety of flight in SoCal, Southern California. Same thing happened. Got laughed at. I got all pissed off. I said, you know what? Screw this. No one cares. But then I had an idea, Margie. I said, I know what I'm going to do. Just in case. Just in case. I'm going to write a fictional story. This was in 2008. I'm going to write a fictional story, and I'm going to change actual people's names, but I'm going to keep the names of the ships. I'm going to use the word Tic Tac, and I'm going to describe the whole damn thing. And then when I wrote the short story, I wrote some other short stories with it, and I published it in the book called Sailor's Anthology, and I published it in the Library of Congress in 2008, just in case. And I went on in life and I forgot about it to the best I could, which wasn't easy. I ended up losing everything I had. I was making good money, and I went from making over 100 to less than 10. I ended up living in the wilderness. I had lost my wife 30 years, lost all my houses.
Was that because of this
you tell me.
UFO sighting? And
I became obsessed with this idea that I could find the mother lode to our family's gold mining claim. It's been in the wilderness for 100 years. And I found it. But not in the way I was expecting. this is the beautiful part.
Really?
I found gold, but it wasn't minerals. Although there is minerals back there, it's something better than that. I didn't know anything about mineralogy, nothing about geology, nothing about mining, but I was determined I could find it. So I got my master's degree. That's as I was researching this thing at Sac State. And I did an expedition back there, back into the wilderness, stayed almost a year back there, and was looking around rocks, and I figured out that our mining claim was associated to a much larger piece of geology. It goes from northern California to northern Washington, and it's called an ophiolite. And what an ophiolite is normally at Pacific, in this case the Pacific spreading arcs. You got all the hydrothermal vents laying down mineral layers. That ground is really, really heavy. And normally when it hits a continental plate, it goes underneath because it's so damn heavy. But when it gets stuck on top of dry land, on top of the other plate, it's called an ophiolite. And that's what we have here. And it goes down about 10 miles deep into our into the ground here. And it's absolutely loaded with minerals. So, but I knew that I could never mine it. It's in the wilderness. So I published my research, forgot about it, went on in life again. Until one day that Elon Musk announced they're going to do the SpaceX flight around the moon and come home. They're calling it Dear Moon. And they're going to take 8 people and go ahead and apply. You have to tell us why. So I did. I sent them my research. 4 days later, I was standing out in the yard. Got the picture right here. Huge white aircraft goes right across the mountains, does a circle right around my mining claim, crisscrosses the state of Oregon, up and down northern California, Washington,
Whoa.
back and forth, back and forth. And the cool thing is, out of that, Margie, they discovered some previously unknown hydrothermal vents right off the coast of Seattle.
Really?
What does that tell you?
Well, aren't those associated with volcanoes?
Tsunami?
Tsunami? Thermal vents? Okay.
Well, if it's thermally active and you've got active fault line there, which they now know about. That's why Chief Seattle the Native Americans never lived there, because they knew that about every 300 years that water rises up. And the last time it happened here, we called it the Cascadia earthquake event. And that, they figure it happened 330 years ago. And it happens about every 300 years. So we're overdue.
Isn't that where the tsunami went all the way to Japan?
Yeah.
From that? Uh-huh.
Yep.
Goodness.
This is the ancient one. This is 300 years ago. This type of geology that I'm talking about makes volcanoes explode. This is a major deal when it goes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I get emotional, you guys, because
That's
you can tell I'm not lying, right?
it's quite all right. It's understandable given everything that you've been through.
Well, yeah, but you know what? Please don't misunderstand me, Murray. I'm not someone sitting here complaining. I've had an incredible journey.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it sounds like
thank
it.
you God I lived through it, because there were some dicey moments, I have to tell you.
I've got a few media assets.
I got started drinking too much at one point. I didn't even realize I was becoming an alcoholic. That's kind of how it works, right? But thank God I woke up, and I've been sober for going on, I don't even know how long now, 4 or 5 years.
That's good.
Yeah, I don't even think about it anymore.
That's good. Is this the Nimitz here?
Well, I can't see the whole number on it, but yeah, it looks like it to me.
Okay, so
Close
that's
enough
not
for
your
government
ship.
work.
You had
Well,
a
that's
ship,
close enough for government work. Go ahead.
right? And then what is this?
Oh, that's the 1988 crew from the Vincennes when we were on our way home from the Gulf, and that's me on the right hand side with the left hand and with the backpack over the shoulder, and we are in Phuket.
Mm-hmm.
It's either Phuket, Thailand, or it's in Longapo, Philippines. I forgot now. Nope, I think that was in the Philippines. Yep.
And
That's
then
one of
this
the
is
good
more.
things about being in the Navy. You get to do some cool stuff. This was when I was on the Chosin out of Pearl Harbor, and that's me on the left, and that's Top Gun school. And as you
You're in
can
the
see,
white.
everyone else is a pilot, and there's only two non-pilots in the whole picture. And that's the radar controllers in the white uniforms, myself and
I
the gentleman
see.
on the right.
Okay.
Yep.
And
So
then you
it's
sent.
yep, and that's my sister Deb, my brother Ed, and myself on the left.
Okay. Looks like you're having fun at
I
the
just wanted to
beach.
give you a sense for who Kevin is. You know, I'm
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we have this.
yep. It's rotating. Look at that, dude. It's rotating. Yeah. That's
That
not the Tic Tac. That's not the Go Fast. That's the other one.
the gimbal.
Yeah, this is amazing. This story is amazing, isn't it? What happened? It really is.
Why don't you give us a quick rundown of what happened that day, and
Oh,
then
certainly,
and
certainly,
let us know if you heard from the pilots at all
certainly.
during that.
We were we were getting ready to go. When I say we're, I'm talking about the Nimitz Strike Group.
Hmm.
Now, I was already been on the Princeton for. I already had orders to go over to Commander Naval Air Pac Pacific when the Strike Group got back into port. So this was actually my last time on a ship underway. And by this time, RG, I was a senior trainer, and my job now was to evaluate the watchstanders up in Combat Information Center, because I had to do an after-action report, lessons learned, so that the captain could release it, and we could do fine-tuning with the crew before they went on deployment. And there were some checks in the blocks that we had to get done to make sure that we were good to go. So anyway, all wrapped around that, my piece in this was air defense. So we were getting ready to do an air defense exercise, which was one of the major reasons why we went to sea. Because during one of those, of course, you have to embark the air wing. So now you get the air wing involved, and they go through all their training too at the same time. See, so it's a pretty complex, extremely expensive exercise. I'll have to tell you that. So anyway, about 4 or 5 days before they scheduled, we didn't have aircraft on the Nimitz yet. We started detecting these weird contacts. And when I say they were weird, they were coming from sub-Earth orbit, and I'm just going to use a number that's out there already, okay, at 80,000 feet. They were coming down 80,000 feet in groups of 5 to 10 at a time, and then they would come down as a group, and they would stop right off the east coast of Catalina Island, about 10 miles, and they would just sit there. And we were out doing our thing, and I was just watching them, because here I am off the coast of San Diego, Los Angeles. They haven't exhibited any type of hostile intent or anything at all. As far as I knew, there was some type of unassociated test someone else was doing. Although we were tracking them on the radar, and we were reporting them on our data links back to the beach in case anyone did need to know about it. We were providing the information like we were supposed to. Meanwhile, I'm doing all the phone calls I can, all the radio comms I can, looking at all the published information like the NOTAMs and everything I can look up to try to determine what these things are, keeping a real close eye on them, keeping the captain up to date what's going on. Until the day the air wing embarks on the Nimitz, and we're getting ready to do this air wing, this 8X. And all of a sudden, Margie, here comes these objects again, and I'm getting ready to launch aircraft now. And here they are. They're right in my playground. And meanwhile, I've been watching these things depart the larger group, and they were one by one coming right over the top of us, going about between 20 and 28,000 feet, going about 100 miles an hour. Remember, these things could go thousands of feet in less than a second. So they were tracked right above us, going super slow. And the interesting thing was, every single object disappeared off the radar in this exact same spot in the sky, which was right over Guadalupe Island off the coast of Mexico. Anyway, so we're getting ready to do the exercise. Captain Smith comes down to combat and says, "Hey, sir, we've been tracking these things for several days now. Your senior chief has no idea what they are. I very strongly recommend we postpone the exercise long enough where I can take one of the aircraft that's about to launch, go intercept one of these things and see what it is. Otherwise, I have the safety of flight on our hands right here. And
Right.
if we don't go look and something happens, someone's going to ask me why I was so damn curious."
Mm-hmm.
And he looks at me. He says, "You're right, Senior Chief. Intercept VID." So that was it right there. So Fast Eagle 1 launches, happen to be Commander Fravor. We take control, cancel the exercise. I drive him to the nearest object that was close to us. And as soon as he gets in the merge plot position, which on the radar on a 2D display, two pieces of symbols in the same spot, that object went from 20,000 feet, 20,000, 20,000 feet, down to 50 feet above the water in 0.78 seconds. No
That would
sounds.
kill a human being if there was a
Oh,
human in that
definitely.
craft.
It's like 35 G or something like that. So
Wow.
he leaves his wingman up high. He goes chasing it down. And as soon as he gets down to co-level with this thing, this object, whatever the hell it was, recognized him. And you'll understand why I say that in just a second. It turns on him, and for lack of a better way to say it, they get in a dogfight. And this is Commander Fravor. He's a former Top Gun instructor, thousands of hours in his logbook, right? The best of the best. And he starts screaming on the radio, oh my God, I'm engaged. Just pooping his pants because he can't, it's so far outside his understanding of what should be there. It just blows his mind.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't anything we've ever were trained or had any recognition of, right? And these are his words. Right then it disappeared right in front of him. And that's what we saw on radar. And I describe symbology. Now we don't track raw radar, we use symbols, right? And each symbol is assigned a number. That way when I say track 4412, you know what track I'm talking about. You don't have to really search for it, right? Whatever that object was, Margie, went from where he was 60 miles north to his assigned spot in the sky. And there was 8 different spots in the sky. And it chose his.
Uh-huh.
They're called combat air patrol stations, and in carrier strike group ops, that's how we defend the aircraft carrier. We have pre-positioned spots in the sky that are secret. No one's supposed to know where they are, especially not UFO craft, right? And
but they did.
For whatever reason, it went to his. Not close.
Wow.
Exactly on it. Lat long and assigned altitude.
Okay. Kevin,
So that's
hold
what
that thought. We're up on a short break. We'll be back in about 3 minutes, so hang on, everybody.
The UNX Network presents a health and wellness spiritually based brand of hemp-derived CBD products made by Hopewell Farm in Harrogate, Tennessee. We apply our Cathara energy work with all of our plants and products. Our products made in small batches with only 2 ingredients of pure hemp, full spectrum crude oil, and coconut-derived MCT oil. Third-party lab tested for potency and legal THC levels with 6 strengths of 1 ounce oil to choose from. Know what you're buying and get what you pay for from Hopewell Farm. Applied directly to a specific area, Hopewell Farm topical salve in 1 ounce and ½ ounce sizes made with pure hemp crude oil, comfrey extract, and all natural ingredients. Find the Hopewell Farm link and coupon code on the UNX Network website at unxnetwork.com. That's unxnetwork.com. The new book, How to Research a Haunted House by paranormal investigator Margie Kay and professional researcher Violet Wisdom, is now available from UNX Media. This one-of-a-kind book explains how to do research on a house with uncommon methods and resources used by historic home researchers, and how to determine who may be doing the haunting and why. How to research a haunted house can be used by homeowners, renters, investors, and it should be in the library of all professional paranormal investigators. Get this unique book at unxmedia.com or Amazon.com. That's unxmedia.com or Amazon.com.
Tickets are now on sale for Rebels of Disclosure 2025, May 12th through the 15th in Grafton, Illinois at the beautiful Pierre Marquette Lodge and Conference Center. This will be a 4-day event with 12 speakers covering topics such as ET contact, experiencer testimonies, lost history, secret space programs, time travel, Illuminati, parallel realities, and so much more. Visit journeytotruth.online for more details.
Welcome back to NX News. I'm your host, Margie Kay, and this evening we are speaking with a witness firsthand to the 2004 and UFO encounter with the Nimitz Strike Group. Kevin Day was a radar operator at the time, and Kevin, please continue your story, if you would.
Yes, ma'am. Kind of picking up where I left off. So, basically what happened was we ended up canceling the rest of the exercise. Believe it or not, the ships actually pulled back into San Diego without ever doing the exercise because we were worried about safety of flight. Because now my airspace, Whiskey 291 off SoCal, was the actual airspace we're in. Whiskey 291. It's a restricted airspace. I can't necessarily keep someone out of there, but we can warn them off. That's why it's a warning area. But anyway, these things had clobbered and it wasn't safe to fly, so we ended up canceling the exercise. We pulled back into port. I transferred off the ship and went to Commander Naval Air Pack. And apparently the strike group had to go back out to sea and finish the air defense exercise before they went on deployment. Now, this is an interesting thing, Margie. Apparently what happened was, after I had left the ship, apparently everyone involved had to sign non-disclosure agreements. Now, for whatever reason, I never had to sign one. I don't know if it's because I left the ship in time, or I just, it's one of the puzzles of this. I don't understand. Apparently,
we had a
question. I don't know if that's true.
But this chat question is: did the Men in Black take your records?
That is apparently what happened, and the reason why I have firsthand evidence as a witness is part of my job was to write after action reports. So, once we got this thing canceled, I got up the next day and I was going to do my after action report. And in order to do that, I had to access the computer network, because I wanted to get information about radar and electronic signals that we had received and all that kind of stuff. And lo and behold, all my data was gone that I normally would use to write messages with. So I called down to the Computer Central, and the supervisor comes up and he sits me down and says, "Senior, I have something to tell you." And I said, "What's going on?" He said, "You know that helicopter you heard last night when you were down in the mess or in your rack getting some sleep?" I said, "Yeah, I did actually." He said, "Well, someone came on board the ship and they took my data, took all of our data. Not only that, they made me erase all the blank tapes."
Oh.
And he said, "But I did save one piece for you." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." And the reason why that 0.78 seconds is the reason why I have it in my book and everything is because that first object that Fravor intercepted went down to the surface of the ocean. He had saved that one piece for me, that one segment.
Oh, wow.
Off one of our systems so I could see it. But everything else was gone. So did I actually physically see someone come on board and take it? No. But I was there and I had to access the data and the data wasn't there. So you tell me.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty typical of the MIBs. And that area that you're talking about in Southern California is a known UFO hotspot area. In fact, there are some people right now. I know of 2 people who have cameras set up on the area. 2 of them, both of them are near Catalina, and they're on the mainland with their cameras aimed near towards Catalina Island. And they see fast movers, extremely fast moving UFOs moving in and out constantly. They've got thousands of them going in and out. Do you think there's a possibility that there's an underwater base there?
I absolutely do, and there's a reason. During the course of the 10 days, we lost your video. Can you still hear me?
Lost. Can you hear me?
I can hear and see you.
Okay. I just lost my video completely for some reason.
You're back.
Oh. Am I back?
Yep, you're back.
Everything just went blank. And it's
the dark.
I can't get back. I can't see you at all. Okay. This is really weird, Kevin, but it doesn't surprise
we got
me.
Some latency going on. We got some.
Yeah, we do.
Latency. That's all it is. Yep. Okay, so can you?
Well, keep going.
Can you hear me
Just
well
keep
enough?
going.
Keep going.
Yes.
Okay, so the reason why I think there's probably UFO bases on the bottom of the ocean. And you got to remember, I've been thinking about this for 20 years. All right, I've done a lot of research, to say the least. And I had to put some stuff together. Over the course of the 10 days during Tic Tac, if you counted up all the different groups and all the different objects in each group, there was probably about 100 of these objects altogether. 100 of them. All 100 of these things, to the best of my recollection, disappeared off my radar in the same spot in the sky. About 60 miles north of Guadalupe Island off the coast of Mexico. And can you still hear me?
I can.
So when
somebody
Lou
dropped me
Elizondo
out, and I just got
when
back.
Lou Elizondo and Tom DeLong came here to interview me, I was telling them this story, and they just stopped. And Lou looks at Tom and says, "We're going there." So apparently they both went out to Guadalupe, and they talked to the fishermen, and the fishermen kind of chuckled at them because apparently they've been watching these things fall from the sky and go down into the water for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Just like people are now seeing things on Catalina Island, same thing, right? So if you followed me here for a second, and this is going to sound somewhat crazy, I have to admit this, all right? But we already know whatever the answers are here, it's going to be kind of weird, okay? It's going to be kind of strange. Now, for a long time I was thinking, why on earth did that object that Commander Fravor and Fast Eagle, why did it go to his assigned cap station? Why? What? I finally figured out maybe it was a message of some kind. And that was confirmed to me during the SoCal, during the filming of A Terror in the Sky in 2022, when Caroline Corey made the movie. We rented one of the flat top houses down there in Huntington Beach that you know so well. We had New York University there, and we had a table full of the most high-tech equipment you can imagine on this table, right, looking right above Catalina Island. And for whatever reason, they showed up for us. We got them on radar, and we got 600 hours of data on these things. And that's when the light came on. I said, okay. They knew my intentions in 2004 because they knew I was going to set that cap station. And now they knew I was going to be on this roof in this moment. So maybe they're trying to tell me something here. Maybe they're trying to tell me that intention. They knew my intentions. Maybe my intentions is the missing piece of this puzzle. Intention.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, let me explain this if I can.
Yeah, please do. I know where you're going.
Because you know where I'm going.
I do.
Well, let me kind of build it for people that haven't heard this before, because it does sound kind of weird and crazy, especially if you've studied physics and the sciences, right? It's gonna sound stupid to you at first, all right? And I admit that. But think about this, and it comes down to a really basic question, and I don't have the answer, but I'm just exploring the possibility here with you. The universe, is it intentional or is it not intentional? I don't know. I have no idea. But let's just say, for sake of argument, for a thought experiment, that yes, it's intentional. Okay? Now that begs a lot of questions. Okay? Let's say it's intentional. Let's just run that through our thought process here. Number one, what happened to the intender? Did the intender survive its creation, or did it commit a cosmic suicide? Again, I don't know. Let's say the intender of the Big Bang lived. Now the question is, in what form? Is intention active or is it benign? You know, created the universe and just committed a cosmic suicide, or is now benign, never to do nothing again? Who knows? Or is intention still an active force in the universe? Now I have four known forces. I have gravity, I have the strong nuclear, I have the weak nuclear, and I have electromagnetism. I submit to you, Margie, there's actually 5 fundamental forces. You have intention. Intention is the actual, in fact, if you really think about it, there's only really one fundamental force in this intention, because all the other ones follow it. And what I've been able to do, and I don't know how the hell I did this, because I'm not a mathematician, I'm not a physicist, but I was able to turn this thought experiment into mathematics. And it works. My math works. And it's just so weird, because as soon as I was able to formulate this whole thing in my brain, right at the right moment in time, it seemed to me that this little thing called AI came out. And I was able to use AI, in this case Chat GPT, like everyone else has, as an assistant to help me turn my thought ideas, my formulations that I had in my head, into actual equations. And they work. I've applied them to business. I've applied them to politics, especially. I've applied them to cosmology. I've applied them to art. I've applied them to music. I've applied them to language. What I do, and the reason why I say they work, is I'll take an existing mathematical suite, an equation suite, a framework, and I'll integrate my equation suite into it, and it works perfectly, like a long lost cousin. And you know why, Margie?
No, I don't.
It's because intention is embedded into the fabric of reality.
That makes sense.
I didn't have to add anything. It's already there.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I did is, of course, when I first shared my ideas, I got laughed at, because I'm on, you've seen my email chain, right?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, I mean, I was invited onto an email chain it's got the foremost world's academics on it, if you will. I mean, some of them, right? Am I wrong about that? You've seen it?
Mm-hmm.
And if we read some of the names, and people wouldn't probably believe it. But after I shared more and more and more, I've gotten more and more and more of them coming back privately and say, Kevin, I kind of believe with you on this. In fact, I'm working in the lab on some of these ideas. So,
wow.
Well, think about this, Margie. If it turns out that I'm right, think about this for a second. 2004 somehow turned into the discovery of the 5th fundamental force.
That's just absolutely amazing. And
not only that,
it seems to me, though,
we may have saved a lot of lives up in Seattle, because now
oh
they
yeah,
know the tsunami threat. That's the goal I like.
what can they do about this tsunami threat?
Put in monitoring
Warning system?
and warning systems in train people. That's about the
Okay.
best you can hope for. Not only that, you
Well,
can map out the topology and know exactly where that water is going to go and where it's not going to go. Probably more importantly.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, in other
Now,
words, find out all you can about it. And that's not the only place. Everyone's focused on SoCal. I got to tell you, man, the Oregon coast. If you look at the sea bottom topologies, we got probably worse faults than anywhere down in SoCal. I got one pointing right at my house that extends way out from out at sea bottom.
oh
I
boy.
mean, when this thing gives, man, this type of earthquake that I'm talking about. I mean, a lot of earthquakes just kind of rumble and it causes landslides and stuff, and then knocks buildings over.
Mm-hmm.
Not this puppy. It goes pap, and it cleaves mountains in half. That's what we're talking about. It makes
Oh boy.
volcanoes explode. That's Cascadia.
Well, there's no getting away from that. And probably no warning system either.
That's the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Exactly.
doesn't give a damn like some politicians don't. Same thing.
When you back to your math that you figured out, did you put that? I don't think you put that in your book because you just recently found that out. Are you going to publish this information?
That's a dicey can of worms, and I struggled with that for a while. Like, okay, now how do I'm not at a university. I don't have grant money. No one knows who I am. I don't have a laboratory. So what I finally decided to do is I just decided to punch it out there in my email thread to the top academics on the planet and just go for it.
And just
Because
let
now
them
if
have
something
at it.
happens, if I'm proven right, no one can say that I wasn't first. I mean,
Right.
it's documented now, right? I took the poor man's way, if you would. And I learned that lesson when I published Sailor's Anthology in the Library of Congress back in '08. You know, I secretly stashed it just in case later no one can say I didn't do it. Does that make sense?
Yep,
So
it does.
I have pushed stuff to them until they beg me to stop. Put it that way.
They beg you to stop.
Well, at least
Got a
one of them did.
question in the chat. Did Elon contact you?
No. Well, that's not true. When I applied for the Dare Moon mission, I got one email back, and it said you made the short list for the Dare Moon mission.
Uh-huh.
I never heard anything else. In fact, I don't even know what happened to Dare Moon. Is that still a going concern? I don't even know. Maybe it got canceled.
Well, who knows? They've got all kinds of
kinda
things
lost
going
track
on
of
in the background that
Right.
we don't know about until they're implemented. Like it's like
I'm not even
Elon's
sure I
new
wanna get on
plane.
one of those spacecraft anymore, huh?
Like Elon's new plane. It's just
Yeah.
it's like whoa, what is this? You know, you never know. Week to week. Have you had any? Has anybody ever apologized to you after how you were treated after that 2004 incident, or has anybody said come forward and said, yeah, I witnessed that as well? Have you had any contacts like that?
Well, the fellow witnesses on the ships, yeah, we stay in touch.
You do. Okay.
Not every day, but from time to time, we're friendly and we all stay in touch. Now, if I did have one bone to pick, it would be this. I'd forgotten all about this thing, okay? And I had moved on in life. And I finally made it back out of the wilderness. And you got to remember, I was pretty much flat broke at that time. In fact, I ended up on a friend's ranch living in a 1974 22-foot trailer that my sister had bought me. Now, I had an income because I was retired, but I didn't have a home or nothing. I was houseless, essentially. I'd just come off the mountain. And then he you know, he had a large farm, and he ended up leasing it to a legal marijuana grower, which is real common here because the Mediterranean climate here. And I was like, man, I can't touch that. I didn't know what I was going to do, so I went into town. I was looking for sale by owner, and there was nothing. So I ate breakfast, and I looked back on there, and all of a sudden there was this house for sale by owner. $20,000 down, $50,000 carry the note. And boy, I tell you, I was on that. And the weird part, Margie, is I knew the house from when I was a little boy.
Really?
Yep. And the old lady that lived there liked me. And I got the keys from escrow. I walk in. Her ashes were on the mantle.
Oh my.
Yeah, really happened. Anyway, it was an old junk house. You know, no one else apparently wanted it. Apparently, back in the 1800s, it was where the slaves had lived. Apparently, I don't know if it's true or not, but you know, I finally had a home. You know, I took it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started volunteering at the golf course. And just kind of moved on in life, and had to reopen the kitchen. I was carrying out a plate of food. Tournament was on. Everyone's happy watching the golf tournament, and all of a sudden CNN breaks, and here that video is from 2004.
Yeah.
Playing on CNN. And I dropped the plate. I was like, what? Because I knew where evidence was. I had evidence. I was the only one that knew where direct evidence was hidden. So I went racing home, and I called Gary Voorhees, and because in the Library of Congress I had the evidence hidden that it really happened. In my book. If you read my story of the seer, you can't. The story is the Tic Tac story. It even says the words Tic Tac in my short story that I published in 2008. Names all the ships. Yep.
So the book, Sailor's Anthology. How can people get a hold of this book?
Well, it's for free on Issuu. I think I sent you the link.
Uh-huh.
If people go to Issuu.com, it's free there. But if they wanted to, they could go to Amazon and purchase it, although there's no need to.
So either way, if you want a hard copy in your hand,
I'd sign it for them.
Oh,
what was that? I didn't hear you.
Yeah, you can get a hard copy in your hand, or you can just read it on Issuu.
Yeah.
ISSUU.com is where you go for that. Kevin, thank you so much for being a guest on my program. This is just fantastic, because I did not know that you existed until you contacted me. So thank you so much for doing that. Your formulas look extremely complicated. So not being a mathematician, I will just say that they're nice to look at. And I'm glad that you're sharing this knowledge with the world, and the rest of us appreciate you coming forward and talking about that encounter.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
Before too long.
Okay. All right. We'll see you next time. And for me, I'm Marcia Kay. This is Onyx News, and that is it for this evening. I will be here again next week with another great guest. So join me then. Good night.